all the stuff. So
yeah, everything.
We have nothing.
I'll do a quick intro for you guys once it goes in.
Okay.
Oh, it says it's now streaming live on Facebook.
There we go.
What do you say?
It says streaming live.
We are streaming live right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to round 3 of Big Tent Revival. This is a blast. Seth and Elizabeth will be hosting alongside of David and Lisa Lunsford. Dave is one of my favorite people. If you guys remember the cult talk from this morning, Dave was my small group leader in that cult. So,
by the way, I'm not Master.
yeah, the first cult. They got me into, well, the first cult was Grateful Dead. But listen, anyway, moving on to Dave and Lisa Lunsford. Glad you guys are here. Technical difficulties. So this is round 2 of 3. So yes, and Lisa's about to tell her story, and I'm really excited to hear it. I'll be catching up with everybody who's on Facebook Live. I'll be interacting with you guys as well, and you guys got this. See you in a little bit.
Perfect.
Cute.
Just want to start from the beginning. Is that what we should do?
We'll just start from your story, Lisa. So he introed you. So tell us your background and a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in North Carolina in the South, and I was a part of a lot of different Christian denominations growing up, kind of starting more conservative and progressively getting more progressive, but still within the conservative Christian Southern, bracket.
Yeah.
And then going to Youth with a Mission, where I met David, and we kind of talked a little bit how Youth with a Mission is kind of this gathering ground for the kind of the misfits, the artistic types, the people that want to, in some sense, they're not really agreeing to
the dream of humanity.
The dream of humanity.
Yeah, we're not going to do this shit.
The corporate 9-to-5 thing is not going to work for these type of Christians, you know. So I found myself there, and but all of that, is pretty normal. I feel like a lot of people's Christian backgrounds.
Yeah, we were
like
Christians.
That. Yeah. And really, it was a foundational part of who we are. Like, if we're going to talk to anybody about anything, we're going to start off with, we're Christians, we love Jesus, and at some point, there's probably going to be this feeling of, I probably need to tell you about Jesus, we were really serious about.
Yeah, like we were like really good Christians. Like, if there was an award for best Christian in America, I bet you it was me and her. Maybe even tied, like, we were. I couldn't help but tell people. I mean, it just like scared me so bad to think about hell, and it scared me so bad to think of my friends going there. And then I don't know, I had to tell everybody, like, you've got to fucking believe this or you're dead.
Yeah, and there's parts of it that we were like that, and other parts that not so much. Like I remember feeling really bad about the whole devotional thing and spending time with God, and I never really. It was never quite my jam, but I did it because I was scared, but it was never, so there were parts of it that weren't totally integrated too. But so like all through early 20s, still a part of that culture, and we
were leaders in it.
We were leaders, worship leaders,
Youth of the Mission leaders.
Yeah, started a church plant in Iowa.
Yeah,
doing that. And then things started shifting when we moved to Seattle.
Yeah.
We were part of a church plant in Iowa for 2 years. And that just kind of started deviating from the original vision of it. And so we just started thinking, there's probably somewhere else for us to be. I think we're outgrowing this place right now, and we want to be doing something different. And as David was looking at different churches and interviewing, this church, Eastlake, came along and found his music, and he did the interview, and the interview was different than any of the interviews that he was doing at other churches. And when I heard about it, I was like, this is where we need to go. And he had some hesitancy about it. Like, I don't know, they're like asking me about beer, and none of the normal questions that churches are asking about.
Yeah, there was like this moment where they're like, all right, we all have our shirts off and we're driving down the highway. Like, it was like,
in a van.
Yeah, in a van. And like, we're all drinking beer or something like that. Like, how is this for you? And I'm like, and they were really doing that. And someone's like, yeah, it smells like ass in here. And I'm like on the interview call with the church, And so I'm like, and then the phone call cut off midway.
Oh my gosh.
I walked out
Awkward.
the room I was in, and I looked at Lisa. I was like, there's no fucking way we're going to go here, but this is what the interview is like. And Lisa's like, well, there's no way that we're not going to go there. Like, that's where we're going.
Yeah, so in our marriage, it's always seemed like David is the one up on the stage and he's the performer, and I've always been kind of really quiet and love being the number two and in the background, but I'm behind the scenes, like making decisions and stuff.
Yeah, she's like, we're moving to Seattle. You know?
Yeah.
Any big thing we've made in our lives, Lisa's the one who's doing it, and I'm the one who looks like I'm the mouther of Lisa's words right now. She's doing it all.
Yeah.
I'm her puppet. Go ahead.
Anyways.
I'll just mouth everything.
So we moved to Seattle. We become a part of this staff on East Lake. And it's the coolest experience ever. I mean, it's a mega church of like 5,000 plus people.
Yeah.
David is playing to this amount of people
every
on
week.
Sundays.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. You know, they have it dialed in, and it's amazing to be a part of something so grand.
Yeah, it's everything a small church hates. I feel like it's like because it's
I get it.
It's too put together. It's not spirit led. It's a machine, and we were running it fucking well.
And the staff are just like the coolest people, strongest personalities, really confident, amazing. I mean, like 18 people.
Right.
And part of that was really, really cool. And beyond that, what I loved about it was that the church was all about next steps, like practical messages that, you know, were based around the Bible and stuff, but a lot about already when we moved here in
2010.
10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
Already there was biblical stuff in it, of course, but they were really more concerned about what's practical and what's going to help people, you know, get through life well. And so that was kind of like a new thing for me. So that was a little shift.
Yeah.
And then we kind of rode that train, unless do you have anything to say about that?
I would just say it was like different than any other church experience I had been a part of, because it wasn't weighing so heavily on rules. It was actually kind of more about bending the rules in some ways and seeing what we were capable of doing without like really worrying about everybody being fucked up. It was kind of like everybody's okay. Yeah. And because of that heart, it started to really move toward everybody's okay and there's nothing wrong with who you are. And so much so that it led to acceptance of all people.
Yeah.
At first it started, well, honestly, we had these staff meetings where we were all doubting the faith anymore, because we were seeing that like in our lives, when we look at people, we love people, and we don't see any representation of like, I don't like that person, or that person's not good enough for God, or they're actually, a lot of times I saw they were nicer people than me, and they're probably going to go to heaven, if there is a heaven, faster than me.
Or they
like,
should. They should anyways. Yeah.
So we started to see like the inequality of Christianity pretty much.
Yeah, the exclusivity of being in or out based on what you believe. Not even like what you do even.
Yeah, who you are. It doesn't matter who you are. It's all about this choice of believing in Jesus. And then after a while,
we're very specific things about him and God and the Bible and
Bible's God breathed. Nothing's wrong with it. God is everything that happens in life is for a beautiful purpose.
Even like, the really shitty things.
Yeah, me having one hand. God sent me with one hand so he could fulfill his plan. That's weird. Thanks. Thanks for letting me be a part of that choice, God. So we just started to see it and started to break it down, and unknowingly, like we didn't know the path that we were on, but we were on the path away from Christianity. And every day was a new step further away. And then we got to a point where we started affirming LGBTQ people, and our church blew up.
Yeah, when it was the formal announcement of it, and our pastor and friend was in New York Times magazine, some huge magazine. It was before we were planning on telling the congregation about it, you know. And this article comes out that our East Lake is becoming open and affirming to the LGBTQ community, and we had kind of been prepping for that, you know.
We knew it was a big deal.
We knew it was going to be a big deal. We had no idea how big of a deal it was going to be. You know, you hear stories about pastors doing that, and then their church is like decimated or cut in half, and funding is cut and by drastic amounts and all of that. But there's this hope though, because we were the church for the rest of us.
Yeah, and we were in Seattle, which is progressive.
Totally. We were in a liberal city and all this. So I think part of us were like, maybe it will be okay, but really that was the catalyst for everything just kind of collapsing. And it started out with the church, and then like we're all of a sudden having all of these conversations with people that
who
are
mad
at us and leaving the church, and for a little bit there, it was like we were just kind of riding on our gut instinct about this. Like, this just feels like it's the right thing to do. Like, it feels like the right thing to do. But we were still in that place of trying to line it up with the Bible. Like, we were still.
So this was a church leadership thing. It wasn't just you guys personally. It was like the leadership of your church wanted to be affirming.
Yeah.
And had made an announcement about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our leadership team, I mean, I was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
We just started making choices about people rather than about God. And I know that sounds weird because back then I would have thought that God was for the people. But in my new view of watching like the Old Testament violence and the way that he was like God was excluding all these people, I was like, God's not really for the people. God's for his own agenda, in my opinion, by the way. And so anyway, it just started to show clear that we didn't believe it anymore.
Right.
Honestly.
And it kind of got to the point because we hadn't reconciled the Bible with what we were doing, but we still had that like want to do that. And at some point it was just like, well, if these people are going to hell, I guess we're just going with them. Like, that's just we just made a choice for the people. Like, I love that you said that.
Yeah.
Because we just made a choice to go with what felt right despite all of the mental things that we've learned our whole. And that was kind of the first time of choosing outside of our families, outside of our religious system. Mm-hmm. And we were just kind of like, I mean, there's nothing else to do here but this. Right.
Yeah. And then when we walked out, I remember like we had like, it messed up our family, messed up our friends, it messed up everything. But I remember my mom saying to me at one time, she's like, we actually like had to move because our lease fell through or something like that. And I was like, I was kind of stressed out about it. I'm like, Mom, I don't know about this. And she's like, well, it probably is not going to work out because you don't believe in God anymore.
Ouch.
It was fine, actually. I mean, it kind of lined up with the thing if you think about it. But it was like, for a minute, I was like, ooh, interesting. Like, I wonder if it will work out or not. Like, I wonder, like, because I was so fresh. I was so like at the borderline that I was like, does magic still happen if I step out of my parents' religion? You know what I mean? Does magic still keep going if I don't agree to the magician that we've all said is the ultimate, you know?
Right.
And then like, it did. It worked out. And then everything started working out. And then like, you know what I mean? Like, everything continued. The blessing in our lives continued. And like, I don't know, the dreams continued, and the wonder, the love in our marriage got deeper. I mean, we've only gotten deeper as human beings. We've only gotten more excited about like what's possible, which is funny, you know what I mean? Yeah. Outside of it.
But yeah, I think it's like that choice to say yes to what feels right here, despite the external influence, was a big game changer for us in that moment. Because what that did for me is like I had to learn how to individuate out of my family, my first family, my dad and my mom and my brother, because we were bonded around a whole lot of trauma from my childhood, and Christianity was one of the presenting glues, yeah, totally, that kept us together and kept us safe. You know, if we do what's right, then we will be protected. And because as a kid, I did not feel protected at all. And so Christianity was like a safety net for me. And so losing that safety net there, it did not go well with my family, me choosing this new way of life. And I was still a Christian at that point, you know, just I was an affirming Christian and a liberal Christian and progressive and all these other things.
So we didn't even know those terms at that point. No. We were, and that's what they called us.
Yeah, and it was like a year and a half or 2 years of just like really dark times going through that stuff. You know, it's like lighthearted when we talk about it now because we've made it through to the other side.
Yeah, sure. But
during that time, it was like
super dark.
It felt like the whole world had come out from underneath our feet.
Right.
You know, and so, but when you get to the very bottom, very, very bottom of all of these things, and you don't die, you're like, okay, everything's still kind of like intact. I'm figuring out that I am safe, I think,
Right.
you know, and you start like taking these little baby steps out from the dungeon or whatever that is, you know. And for me at least, it was like those were the things that I thought that I could not survive without.
Right.
Like I could not survive without the validation of my dad.
Right.
And belonging in my family. I mean, you know,
Right.
that's like such an intense thing. And then you start seeing that you survive it, and then you have to start taking steps forward and making choices.
Yeah.
And you're realizing I'm making these choices on my own now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. At some point you start to like ask questions too, like, how am I doing? Like, how does my body feel? You know what I mean? Like, it almost like brings you back into your body for a second, because you're like, what hurts in me? What, like, why am I sad? And it starts to bring up all these like traumas that, for us anyway, Christianity had put a Band-Aid on, and told us that everything was okay and everything was the purpose of God and everything was whatever. So you had
it's all taken care of.
Right. So you had an excuse for it. Like, having one hand as a Christian made me feel like God had a purpose for my life. Having one hand as a human was like, oh, my heart is broken about this.
Oh, wow.
My heart was broken about these bad things that have happened in my life for both of us.
Yeah.
And now without this Band-Aid, you have to go like, oh, this is why I had anxiety. You know, this is why it was hard. I don't know. I've always had anxiety, even when I was a Christian. I've always been somewhat sad, but I've always put that Band-Aid on. So it made us go like, oh, this is why it hurts, and why else am I hurting, and why else, and why else, and like you're just like reaching into the darkness of our hearts and pulling out like these wounds and going, oh, this, I need to pay attention, and what is here, and how can I heal this wound now?
Yeah, because it was like deconstructing Christianity was like the first of many deconstructions that would happen.
Oh yeah.
After that, you know, because then it's like that falls apart, and then your role in your family all of a sudden doesn't work anymore, and so that falls apart, and so you start questioning all these roles and identities that I've been playing my whole life, and as a woman, as a Southern woman, as a Christian woman, as a firstborn daughter,
straight A student. I mean, like, think about all the things that you claim that you are.
Yeah.
Those are all identities that we are using to like run a defense system to shield off the hurts of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, God, I'm a winner. I was a really good Christian identity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So you get to the very bottom of all those things, and then you start rebuilding.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of, so that deconstruction was like a couple years probably of that, and intense therapy. Yeah. we sought out a lot of help as we were going through that, because we didn't have God anymore to tell us what to do. We didn't have our parents anymore to validate what was happening. So we had to really work on building up our voice, my voice. At first it was kind of like our voice, and we tried to make our spirituality still the same, on the same page in our family. At least you and me, we can be together.
Yeah, but that was even off at the beginning, because Lisa was an atheist before I was I don't
fully
know.
doubting.
Yeah, totally. Like, yeah, there's things wrong with the Bible. This is really cool to talk about. And then I came home one day and she's like, I'm an atheist. And I'm like, oh shit, I've taken us in the wrong direction.
Never mind. Let's rewind.
We have a question that kind of, before we get onto the rebuilding side of things. So with this whole idea of the deconstruction and finding those deep inner hurts, Chris is wondering, are you suggesting that leaving Christianity is good for your mental health, or just for your mental health?
Geesh, man, I think it's an uncovering of what's really there. I don't know if you stay that way your whole life, I guess you don't have to go there.
Yeah.
Or maybe you still do. I don't know. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I think for me there was no option. It just fell away. It slipped away. It wasn't any kind of conscious choice that I made. It didn't. To me, I think it's more important than, like, because did you say exiting Christianity, like leaving it?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone needs to do that. You know, I think it just happened to be my path that was the thing. But I think people should definitely question stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I think you should definitely question why you do what you do, and if it's an authentic expression of who you are? Or is this a conditioned thing that you learn how to do in order to be safe and secure and belong?
That makes sense.
If that's the case, I mean, you get to make choices about everything. So you get to choose if that feels better to you. But I think it's like important for people to know that they have a choice about that stuff.
Yeah. And for me, it just provided an invitation to look at my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
I think forever I tried to not believe that I had mental health issues or not believe that I had trauma in my life because everything was for the better, you know? So I think that when it all fell away and I didn't have that kind of thing to put on it, then I got interested in why I was this way. Ooh, this is interesting that my body hurts. I should probably figure this out. So I don't know if that's for everybody. Maybe people find different things on whatever move they make, but for me, it made us dive into our mental health.
Yeah, and it wasn't a choice. And at the time, we did not have this language for what was going on.
Our mental health broke down.
Yeah. We just like slipped down, you know, and it really was like a slip. It was like, I thought there was going to be footing here, and there is, all of a sudden, the reality has shifted to a place where there is no footing right here. And then I fell all the way down to the bottom and just got to a point where I couldn't function anymore. And so I had to get help. And so I started going to therapy for the first time. And I went through a lot of crazy shit as a kid, like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned a history of trauma, and I really wanted to ask, but I was like, you know, trauma is one of those things you may not want to unpack. But when we say trauma, what are we talking about?
Well, and it's like, so if you go, we started a podcast, and I have an introduction that has my whole story, all of the stuff in it. And like me, it's like, I don't know if the actual events of the trauma are as important as knowing that everyone has trauma. So it's like, for me, it was my birth mom was schizophrenic by the time I was 2 years old, and then she died from bone cancer when I was 7. And my dad remarried into this like really crazy abusive family that for 5 years it was a constant like coming together and then leaving, and a lot of verbal and physical, and I was sexually abused during that time. But it's like, you can hear someone's story and think, oh shit, that's a lot of stuff. I didn't have a childhood like that. But the thing is that what I've learned I've become a student of my own journey and watching myself and becoming an observer of the way that I operate in the world over these last 5 years, and what comes up, and what is this feeling and this emotion and all of the fears that I'm being triggered into right now, what is attached to my childhood from that. And I think everyone can do that, because all kids grow up in trauma. They grow up like learning certain ways to believe about the world in order to feel safe, and they learn certain behaviors that they
get love from or don't get love from.
Right. And how do I make sure that I stay in this family? How do I survive? How do I make sure that I get food and water and love and support, and I belong here? And so I will manipulate myself in order to appease you so that you will keep me around. And so that's the thing, is like, everyone has that. No matter what your childhood was like, everyone's got that. So to me, it's like a lot of my spirituality now has come out of doing that inner work.
Right.
So talk about that. What does that rebuilding, what does that, you mentioned therapy, like what type of therapy did you go through? What type of things helped you?
Yeah. So it started actually with like a body worker, which we went to the craziest shit first. It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah, we were like, what? We didn't no idea what to do. So one of our friends had gone to this body worker named Suryo, and it sounded real scary, because in Christianity, it's like, don't mess with anybody who does magician work or whatever it's called. But we're like, at the same time, we were just in a lot of pain, and so we went to see Suryo. I think you went first.
Yeah.
Per norm.
I was, oh God.
Sorry.
Our makeshift studios.
I put these like sound baffles against the wall, and they just are falling down.
Okay. So when you say body work, you mean like a chiropractor or a masseuse, or?
She talks to your body. So
Oh.
What?
Yeah.
she holds your hand and she calibrates your yes and your no, and then she talks to your body. And I went to her probably 3 times.
Yeah.
And but she was also a psychotherapist or something like that. And so she talked about the childhood stuff as she's like working with my body in the state that it's in right now and getting information from it. And it was crazy to go from no therapy to, this type of work.
Yeah.
But what happened for me is I was going to her like every other week, and all of this stuff would get brought up, and then I'd have to go home and be with my 2 girls and make dinner, and I was a mess. And at one point I went to David, I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I got to figure out something else. I'm drowning here.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of our friends had gone to the Hoffman Institute, which is a 9-day program of super intensive therapy. They say that it's like 9 years of therapy in 1 week. And so it's super intense. But the thing is like, I was drowning. I was like, I had always known that I was going to need to deal with this kind of stuff with my childhood. It was always like right behind me, just like waiting to pop out, and I'm just like trying to like keep it back and keep it down. And they came back and told me that it was about learning about these patterns of behavior that you adopt as a child in order to feel safe in your home. And as they just said that sentence, and I just started bawling. And they looked 10,000 times lighter than when they went there.
Our friends, yeah.
Yeah. And so sitting on their couch, I was like, oh my God, I have an answer. I have a way to get out of this. And so I signed up for it right away, went the next month. One of the hardest things that I did. And
yeah, it's crazy. No one knows your name there. You're like not allowed to use your name. You don't have a phone, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it was at the time. And then like you're doing all this shit. Like you're hitting pillows, you're yelling, you're screaming, you're
expressing anger. Like I didn't realize I was really angry at my mom for dying, and all these things that you can do your mental gymnastics to make them make sense and have compassion for the situation, but you don't deal with the grief and the anger and the stuff that your body is just holding on to. And that's the stuff that gets triggered or the trauma that like comes out when you get triggered all of a sudden by your kid or
right. Yeah. When all of a sudden you're just like mad at your kids, and then like afterward you're like, what just happened to me? Like I just got overtaken by something. I've been even noticing it lately over small stuff. Like yesterday I was like to my little girl Abby, I was like, we should watch Wall-E, and she's like, I don't want to watch Wall-E. And I was like, we're watching Wall-E. And like I had to like win the war of Wall-E. Like I was like, and I felt the urge, and then I noticed it. I'm like, oh, sorry, we don't have to watch Wall-E. Sometimes Daddy's body just gets overtaken.
But yeah, so it was Hoffman that kind of taught us a lot about the foundation of this kind of psychology that is really happening for most people, every person.
Yeah.
Every person is going through this stuff, but it's unconscious. And so this Hoffman brought it to our consciousness. It brought it to, all of a sudden we had awarenesses about all of the behaviors that we did out of conditioning.
Right. And how to like trace them back. Like whenever we felt like depressed, we could like figure out ways how to figure out what that was that was triggering us, and how to look at it, and how to like kind of feel the heartache of like the heartbreak that happened back then. And then we started seeing it in like Ram Dass teachings, and then Thich Nhat Hanh teachings, and like all these spiritual teachers. I even think we can see it in Jesus, but Jesus is so clouded over by Christianity that it's hard to even like play that game. But like everybody's saying the same shit. You know what I mean? It hurts to be human.
Right. Like almost I feel like my spirituality these days is very grounded in this physical reality. I've just found out that that's kind of where my being likes to rest, and where I find a lot of actual comfort in that. This is that we're really just sophisticated animals. Every once in a while I'll dip into like the mystical, magical, and manifesting and all of that. But for me personally, and David and I are very different. Me personally, I've found that the way that I rest and I can relax in this lifetime is being okay with the fact that I might just be a sophisticated animal, and I make my own meaning in this life. And also being a sophisticated animal means that this awareness that we have of everything that goes on is really overwhelming a lot of the time. And so I've found that realization gives me more compassion for myself, and I'm not nearly as hard on myself as I used to be. I just realized I'm not a robot, that I can input these things into my mind, make them all line up, and then it should just work just fine. That's the way that I've thought my whole life. But there's all this stuff that happens in your body, and all of these things that you've gone through that are really, really traumatic, And so I find that and even just like coming to grips with, yes, we are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and who knows what happens after it, but just like an animal dies, we will die, and being okay with that. So I find that my spirituality is like more about practices that soothe my body in this awareness that I have of everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of those practices that you've been doing? Or sorry, Dave, you were going to say something too, but what does that look like? So
for me, a lot, I have these kind of like rituals that I do. So like waking up and making coffee is a ritual for me. I do my best if I can be aware enough to like be with the coffee, like as I'm pouring the coffee, thinking about the way that it sounds, the color of it, the smell of it. Like, to me, it's a lot about being in the present moment. So anytime I feel my anxiety start to get kind of big and out there, and I start thinking about the future or what ifs, like lately, it's been a lot of, I wonder if Dave and I are okay. All of my stuff is like, all of my worries and anxieties are here right now. There's rarely stuff about the future, but that's just me. And whenever I start feeling those things just coming into my body, like being present with, okay, I'm starting to feel anxious right now. Where is that sitting in my body? Do I need to touch my stomach? Do I need to like feel the warmth of my hands on my stomach? And like, if you do this kind of stuff, like if you touch your face and you feel the warmth of your hands on your face, all of a sudden there's just like, and you pay attention to it, there's relief that comes in your that just like floods your body, that you're paying attention to this thing that's like freaking out right now. So a lot of, and like lighting incense and watching the smoke come up and putting on calming music. And then also lately I've been trying to be more in touch with my anger and frustration, because I'm an Enneagram 9 peacemaker. And so that's, oh yay!
Me too.
I feel comfortable in those spots where I'm just trying to calm and soothe and all of that. And lately, just coming, I want to get better at this, at expressing my anger and frustration and being messy and complicated, and that I take up more space than I'm comfortable with, and all of those things. So there's a whole bunch of things that I do, but they all happen in moments.
So grounding exercises, essentially connecting with those 5 senses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's what I kind of feel like spirituality is. How spirituality invites you to the forefront of your life. Find ways that invite you to be present in life. Find ways to enjoy life. Find ways to experience pain. Find ways to like actually live your life. Because like most of the time, like we're just like playing this game that we're living life, but really we're just listening to the voices in our minds. And our minds have all the conversations about how like me and this person aren't getting along. And I bet you she's saying about this, about me right now. And my parents are proud of me because of all these things. Like, it's all here and hardly anything is coming out of our mouths. And so I just realized that like, we're like living in our minds. And so these breaks of this, like touching your skin, bring me out of my mind, lighting incense and watching it, like give me something to play with in this earth, like let's bring it into
playfulness is a big deal too. I think finding joy in this life instead of just being consumed by the overwhelmingness of it, and there's just so much shit to know, and so like finding moments where you are joyful and happy, and it's an expression of who you are, not someone else telling you what you should be doing. But that's another part of spirituality too, I think, is like finding your path and like making adult choices about it, not asking anyone about it, like finding that route that your being can rest in as it's like moving along, you know, and in that you find things that are joyful to you, because we're such unique beings in this life, you know. And so it just doesn't make sense that there's one roadmap for everyone. And so I think that a lot of spirituality is getting to know yourself, getting to know your resting heart rate.
Yeah. What do you like? What calms your body? Because mine's way different than hers.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask it's got to be different.
Way different. I'm like magical, mystical, like
imagination.
I believe that there's like a universe above me. Like, of course, there's a universe above me, but the one that originates David. Like, I believe that it broke off from the eternal oneness that was all of us, and that each of us are actually broken off constellations, like breathing into these human bodies. I believe like there's magic, like when I dream something and I hold it with my emotion, that I'm creating it, and this universe is helping me create it. I believe, you know, but I also believe that probably fucking wrong. What does it matter? Like that helps soothe my body. Like that helps me live presently. That helps me not like worry about the future as much, or like worry that what if my dreams don't come true? Like, why waste the time and energy worrying about that, but rather like play like life's a magic trick and you can make it happen. Like, that's what we're trying to say. So if Christianity does that for you, then fuck yeah, you got it. You know what I mean? But I think the problem with Christianity is it tries to do it for everybody, and it tries to tell everybody that that's the way it's done. And if you don't do it, then you're not doing it. And I just don't think that's true, because I've actually find way more presence, way more happiness, way more peace in David's spirituality. And David's spirituality is for sure not for everybody else.
And I think it's important. You just hit on it just real quick there, is that like I really believe your spirituality should not be based out of fear.
Yeah.
You're going to get in trouble, or that you're going to get in trouble because you're not being responsible for that you're not saving other people and stuff like that. Like, I don't feel like anything out of fear is like a true expression of who you are.
Yeah.
Because that definitely involves someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think in Christianity, I learned that my ideas probably weren't good. Like, they were probably of the devil. Like, but I had to wait for God's ideas, and my desires, and any feeling I had in my body, unless I really trusted it was from God, and I had to really trust it, because then I had to go that way, you know. But nowadays, I'm like, what do I like? And then whatever I find, I'm like, I found it. I found something that I like. What do I desire? Ooh, I found something, you know. Like, and I'm like rejoicing that I finally know what I might like and what I might desire, because I went to this energy healer one time in Marie Manucherry, and I was laying on this bed, and she was like, what do you want to do with your life? Anything. What do you want to do? And I was like, I have no idea. She's like, anything. Just name anything. I'm like, yeah. I don't know. It was after, because I was in Christianity for so long, that God was that answer keeper for me. I didn't know how to even think of what I wanted, because I had to wait on it, you know. And so now I'm just like, what do I want? A fucking cigarette right now. I'm gonna not all my wants.
Me too.
Not all of them are healthy for me, but I feel like it's fun to know what I want.
So what's your Enneagram number, Dave? We know Lisa's. What's yours?
Mine's a 4.
It is a 4. So there you go. Paul Matthew Harrison, that was shout out to you. He was clocking you at a 4, I guess. So.
Right. Yeah.
When he also has another question for you. And he says that he understands not believing in God, but he understands that. But why atheism?
Oh yeah. So sorry.
That was a point in life.
That was a point.
Yeah.
We felt, or she felt at that point. I visited it for like a week. I guess I don't believe in, I don't know, what is God? You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? Is it Christian God? Then yeah, I'm an atheist. Like, is it a universe that clicks and moves and is magic? Like I was telling my girl last night, Lucy, she was like, there's no magic in the world, Dad. And I was like, hug me. And I was like, what do you feel? And she's like, love. I'm like, there it is. I just gave you love. Like, magic came out of my body. So like, for me to say there's no God, I mean, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I don't think I'm an atheist. I think I'm a Davidist. I think I'm a
well, and I think it's kind of interesting too, like, even that question, why atheism? I think that you don't have a choice. A little bit. Like, I think it's about just being honest about what you think.
That's true.
Being honest about what you believe. And if I get all the way down to it and it lines up with a label in that moment,
right.
You know, but my beliefs change all the time.
So would you say there's either theism or atheism?
I don't know. Like for me, I think it's like, I don't really ever want to put a label or identity into my thoughts and my beliefs because they change so often.
Yeah, we did that and it fucked us over.
Yeah.
A lot of trouble for it. Hi, Omar.
He's not on the headphones. I'm not sure how to do this.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think we're atheists. I don't know. It's really true. Why put a label on what you are? It only causes having to dig yourself out 2 weeks later.
Well, yeah, it almost causes just like you can totally do it because we're kind of wired to do that, to categorize and label so that we can like, all right, we've got you set right here, this like black and white kind of way of thinking. It's easier for our minds to do that.
Yeah, totally.
But what I found is that it's not reality though.
Yeah.
At least for me in my experience, that's not the way that the world works. The world doesn't work in it's all a constructed thing. It's
all evolving. And that's what we're talking about on our podcast on Sundays, evolving spirituality. Like me lighting incense today doesn't work for tomorrow. And then again, another day it worked again. Like my practices change every day because this body is changing every day. You know, like,
and we're learning new information all the time. We're receiving information about the way that our body works, about the way our mind works, about the way the world works. Like all of that is coming in all the time. So I feel like putting a label and categorizing things, it helps for a moment. And then it kind of like, then you have to deconstruct that all over again and reconstruct all over again and deconstruct and then reconstruct over and over and over again, which there's no problem with that.
If that's what you like to do, if that's your religion,
well,
like, I mean, if that's the way that you would like to be spiritual. I mean, some people love that kind of shit. I think I just like, I don't know, maybe I love that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Maybe I like going like, oh, that doesn't work today. What would work today? I'll try a fire. How does that make me feel? Nah, that's not working how I should try. Howling to the moon today. And it works. I'm like, okay, I guess for at least today, howling to the moon is my new ritual. Anyway, we're crazy if you haven't noticed.
That's okay. So we had a question from Joshua Kramer. He wants to know, so in the idea of lone spirituality, is there a place of others and oneness with fundamental differences in morality?
Yes.
What do you mean? Sorry.
I think you're saying like in your own individual spirituality, is there room for oneness with other connection with others and just so this is what I think about it is I think we are absolutely all connected. We are absolutely all unique individuals that we might not all say it, but we all have our own spirituality. We all have our own ways of believing in this world. Like doing that thing, if you really just drill down past all of the conditioning and you're really honest about what you believe in this moment, what you think in this moment, it's not going to be like anybody else's. You have all the right things to say if you belong to a group, you belong to a community. So I absolutely believe that in my individual spirituality, there is more room for connectedness to others, because what I found is like the friendlier that I get with reality, which I believe that is reality, that we all have our own way of being in this world, that I find myself way more closer to people, way more connected and interested in the way that they see the world.
Yeah.
You know, instead of being in this fear of we need to be on the same page so that we can stay connected.
Yeah.
I say we're not on the same page, and how amazing is that?
Yeah,
I'm more like the same page.
I'm more like, Omar, what do you think about God? Elizabeth, what do you think about God? Seth, what do you think? Because it's like all these like different eyes seeing a totally different path, a totally different life, and there's no chance that I believe what you believe, but I want to know what you believe because I want to like gain understanding from your divine presence. So I think that everyone's divine, no matter what religion you're holding.
Wait a minute.
You.
I don't think your mic's on for us anyways.
No, it's still not. It's not on.
Still not on?
No.
Well, he said it's like you're fading into the gray.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely.
Totally. what we're doing.
All right.
Where do you
No,
want
it's on.
to
Is
there?
it?
Now you're on.
Cool, man. This has been fun. Like, we're gonna keep going a little bit. If there's any other question and answers, if any of the Patreons want to jump in and ask any more questions, but I'm gonna stick around for a little bit and catch up with you guys some more. It's about the end of the live stream. Really appreciate you guys doing this, and check out. You guys are going live again tomorrow. It sounds like, huh? For you guys.
Yeah, we're going live on Instagram each week at 11 a.m. and recording a podcast. And this week is evolving spirituality. We just kind of make the topic up the week of, and then we show up with nothing prepared, and kind of like we did today.
Yeah.
What's your Instagram feed?
My Instagram is at, what is that
Underscore.
called? David Lunsford _. And hers is at Lisa Lunny.
LUNNY.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you spelled it right.
Yeah. Also, we're life coaches, and we like do this work in encouraging people to live their own life. You know, like how we've been talking about, really getting down to what is it that you believe and want, and how do you make steps doing that? You know, like that. That's why we get so passionate talking about this journey that we've been on. Is like it's been so freeing to live our own life and not be like underneath anyone right now. And we want that for everyone who wants it.
You give it to yourself.
Yeah.
You can still be a Christian. You can still be whatever you want to be.
Mm-hmm. Just choose it.
But just also know that you're powerful too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad you're doing this, Lisa. I've had the opportunity over the last year or so to catch up with Dave, and it's been, like we haven't missed a beat, and obviously I think a lot closer. Damn, I gotta stop saying obviously. But just because, we've had similar life journeys, even though we hadn't talked in decades. And then I saw that you guys were starting this podcast, and we get to hear more of Lisa. And so I was kind of excited. To be honest, I haven't got a chance to listen to you guys yet. I'm not on Instagram. I see you guys. It's also like on Facebook and stuff as well. So I'm going to listen more now. And really got like when you were speaking today, you held me captive, and I was watching on Facebook Live. It seems like every time that you had an opportunity and I took the floor, like more people were engaged too. So I just want to say that you definitely have a story to tell, and it's interesting. And so I'm glad that you guys are doing this, and the both of you. And it's just kind of cute watching you kind of do it together. And so yeah, this is fun. So you guys check us out. We're gonna take a break here from Facebook Live for an hour. We're gonna be back. You don't want to miss the last sessions wrapped up with Carl and Renee, amateur porn stars. So there it is.
And that's going to be at 5 Eastern time. That's coming up in just a little bit.
1 hour. Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Bye, Facebook.